Yeah, I have started the recording. Yeah, so basically this class is regarding, how you can mention the things in your resume. What are the things you have to mention in your resume, additional thing as part of this course, right? So which I will explain you what are the things you have to mention in your existing resume, right? And we can also discuss the, the interview question. What are the important question that will asked by the interviewer? Okay, so we will also discuss the interview question and few of the things which you were asked in between the class, like some of the basic differences, right? So that I will also cover in this class. Okay. Okay, so before that, let me call everyone. Okay, so let's go ahead. So first we can discuss the resume preparation. Okay, what are the things you have to add inside your resume? Okay, so first we will discuss that thing. Okay, so as part of guys, you can mute. As part of this course, we have learned the API testing, right? The web service testing. What are the web service? The REST and the SOAP, right? So as part of this course, we have learned how you can do the REST service, a manual testing and the automation testing using the Postman tool and using the JavaScript, right? So scripting knowledge is the Java and the tool which we have used is the Postman, right? Using the Newman help, we integrated with the Jenkins and we generated the report, right? So let's discuss the thing which you have to mention in your resume, right? So as part of this course, if you have done the practice well, right, if you have taken the multiple example, the services which I have provided you, right, so you can represent yourself as a 3 years. If you feel that you can represent as a 3 years, right? So in that case you can mention. So in every resume, I think you have seen we have the professional summary. If I open my resume, that is 3 to 4 year back resume. It was not good, but let me open 4 year back resume. Somewhere it is, yeah. Okay, so in the experience side here, right, so it is like 3 years, I think more than 4 years back resume it is, right? So here in the experience section, or you will get like a professional summary, right, where you can add the first point in between whatever the the profile you have. So in that resume you can add the one more point here. What is the point? The 3 years experience in the manual and the automated automation testing, automation testing for web service, that is for the REST and the SOAP, right? This, the second point you can add it here, the strong knowledge in the API testing using the Postman tool, right? The experience in the JavaScript which require in the API testing using the Postman tool. Okay, so these 3 points are very important which you can add. Okay, the scripting language which we have used is the JavaScript. Okay, and then the fourth point, the strong knowledge of mapping of the API requirement. I have shown you the multiple requirement where you can map different types of the requirement, right? So you can map that requirement easily and analyze and understand the requirement specification, right? So I have explained you what are the different types of the requirement which comes in the project, right? So we have discussed all the different kind of the requirement. At least it will be similar. If you will not get exactly, it will be the similar, right? So you will not face any problem. Okay, now the fifth point, developing the test script and the test scenario, right? And the test defect and the test summary report and weekly status report and the execution of the test case, right? So after mapping the things, you can, write the test script, whatever the manual test case you have. So you can write the automation test script, right? You can write the test scenario there, like we have seen, like the module wise we can create the folder, right? And inside that we can create the positive scenarios, and then the based on the client error we can create the separate folder, and inside that module wise we can add the client error, right? So like that you can you design the things, right? You can you written the test script, you written the test scenario, and then when you execute the thing, you are getting the defect or the bugs, right? Which you are it is integrated with the Jenkins, right? So you are also generating the test report, so it's up to you how you are communicating with the client on the daily basis. You whatever the execution report you have on the daily basis, you are discussing with the client, or weekly basis, right? It depends on to project, right? So this pipeline execution using the Jenkins, it depends on the client on which duration they want to execute. Like every night 2 o'clock in my in my previous organization, it was every night execution was happening there, because at the night server no one is using the server, and the network is also good, and everything is stable, right? The traffic is less there, right? So we are executing the test script generally at the night execution, because if you start the execution on your machine, right, it will occupy your machine as well. So what we are in the earlier organization, what we are doing before shut down our system, we are not doing the shutdown our system, we just run our script, okay, and it start executing. When we come in the morning, we can see the report, the test report. So it's saving our time actually. Or using the Jenkins, you can set the trigger time here, whatever the time you want to set, like every night 2 o'clock, or morning you want to set, or whatever the time you will mention in the trigger section, right, as per the client. And that setup is done by the client or your team lead, okay. So at that particular time it will start executing. So some of the company setup, some of the project setup every night execution, or every 12 o'clock, or every alternative day, or every Friday, or whenever the new build will come, whenever the new changes will come, you want to execute. So it's depends on the how they are decided actually, okay. Now the another point which you can mention in the resume, that created the automation script in Postman using the JavaScript for web service testing, which we have already did, right? Good understanding and hands-on experience in JSON and the XML. You can easily understand the JSON and the XML. If you are using the REST, then we are using the JSON, right? 90%, even more than 95%, we are using the JSON. So in the case of SOAP API, we are using the XML, the markup language, right? And if you are using the SOAP service, then we have to use the WSDL file, WSDL file, right, which you have to import, right? And then you can use the JSON and the XML in your project, right? So if they ask the question where you have used the JSON and the XML, right? So JSON you have used in the REST API, JSON you have used in the REST API, and the XML you have used in in some of the you have worked on. There was one project you can represent like that, which was only for the as a POC purpose, proof of concept, right? As a 2-3 months. So at that particular web service, it was related to the SOAP web service. So And in SOAP web service, we have used the XML, right? So in the XML, the developer has provided the WSDL file, WSDL file. So using the SOAP UI, you have imported, or using the some other tool, you have imported that file, right? And you now your XML file get imported. Now you at that time, the same thing which we have did for the rest, we also did for the XML. We connect with the server, will get the response, we verify the same concept here also. Okay. And the eighth point, use Jenkins pipeline to execute the postman collection using the Newman, right? That is already clear. Extensively experience in smoke testing, functional testing, integration testing, regression, which you are already mentioning in your resume as a manual guy, right? Which you are already adding in your resume, right? So here you can see experience in the RESTful web service testing using the Postman tool, validated the JSON formatted type, different HTTP code like status code, client error, server error. So in the 10th point, you can mention like that. In the professional summary, where you are adding the summary. Okay. And we have the responsibility section. If you go, where is my resume? Here you can see the responsibility section, right? So in that particular section, right, you can take any project name or your current project name. You can mention the project name, right? It's better to take the banking application, like the pension, where you have worked on the pension project, mortgage project, right? Or income project, or employee project, right? Where you can add the responsibilities. Like if you see my resume here, you can see, right? So this is my one of the project, right? So you can see it here, the yellowtail was the client, right? And here you can add your that I will explain you what technology you have to add. You can add the project description, like you have worked on what about your project, and what exactly it was. Okay. And then you can add the roles and the responsibility, right? So in the roles and responsibility, you have added this following point as part of this course: analyze and understand the requirement specification. Okay. Map the new or existing requirement, writing the test case for the new functionality and added in the product, and creating the automation script for the same. Created the automation script in Postman using the JavaScript for the RESTful API testing. Okay. Automation framework design implementation according to the project structure, right? So you have created the the design, the framework in the Postman, right? And according to your requirement, according to your project structure, right? Monitor the test execution in Jenkins once code pushed into the continuous integration, right? So whenever the code come to the services into your branch, right? So you are executing your executing your collection, right? And you are monitoring your test execution in Jenkins, right? Attended the daily scrum meeting and participate in weekly project status meeting and updated the testing progress, right? Discuss the HTML report with the client, right? Like after execution will get completed, it generate the HTML report for you, right? So what whenever you have the meeting on daily basis or alternative or weekly, it depends on your project to project, right? So you are also discussing the report with the client, like what are the failed test case, how many test cases get passed, how many total time execution, what is the reason behind the failed test case, how it will get resolved, right? So that thing you will have to discuss as part of the report, which we have already seen in the report section. Okay. In the technical skill, you can add this following point here. If you go here in the here, Here you can add, or in the top here you can see, here you can add skill set. You are having one column, right? So where you can add uh, this point, the automation testing framework or tool, the Postman you have used, and we have used the BDD, behavior driven development, right? So we use the concept of BDD concept. We use the, whenever we are adding the assertion, whenever we are setting the environment, getting the environment, converting the JSON file, parsing the response body, parsing the request body, that is all the comes under the concept of BDD, behavior driven development concept, right? And you have used the Jenkins, Newman, and the Node.js. The Node.js is used to install the Newman, right? The npm, and using the npm, you are you are running your collection, right? So if you install, if you want to run the Newman, right? And Newman is the Node.js platform. So that's why you install the Newman in your machine, and then you have verified the npm, and then it will also, if you not install the Node.js, you can't install the Newman, because Newman is the Node.js platform, right? So that's why you have installed the Node.js in your machine. After then you install the Newman. After then you are executing your Postman collection using the Newman, right? Which we have already discussed, right? API testing tool, what tool you have used? The Postman tool you have used to do the API testing. On which window machine? So depends on your window, like you have executed on Mac OS, you can mention it here, right? Whatever the window you have, you can mention here. The scripting language, which scripting language you have used for the testing? The JavaScript you have used. The scripting language is JavaScript, right? The CI tool, what CI tool you have used? You have used the Jenkins, and in the Jenkins, using the Newman, right? You are executed your collection. The Newman is not a CI/CD tool, not a CI/CD tool, but using the Newman, you are executing your collection. That's why I have mentioned here. Okay, let me remove it here because it's making the confusion, right? Domain, what domain you have used means, what are the, on which REST API domain you have used, right? So you can say like banking, or you can take it any example, pension, mortgage, or income, or you can take it as a any e-commerce site, right? Which we have used to do the REST API testing. Okay, so these three section which you have to add in your resume actually. Any question, guys?
Yeah, because this domain thing, in this we will write our client name like our project, or we can write any which we have given for practice. In domain.
It depends. If you are very much confident in your, let's see, guys, if you are preparing for the interview, you are trying to switch your job, right? If you can write it here, anything like some valid one, banking project or e-commerce project or some government project, they will, whatever the project you have to mention, the things is, that project, that project, what is the functionality of that project. Okay, that's it. If you can mention your project as well, your current project, because your current project, your company project very well, so that's why you can mention it here.
Okay.
Okay, or you can mention the banking project, like in the banking project you have worked on the pension project, mortgage project, and income project. They all, for this particular modules, they have used the REST API, and you did the manual and the automation testing for that. So it's up to you which domain you feel confident and which you can represent. That particular domain you have to mention. I have just taken the example here. Okay. Any other question? So I will share this document with you. You can go through this document uh, and add this particular point in your resume. Some of the points are already there in the resume, right? So based on that you can update, like attended the daily scrum meeting. That point I think it will be there, right? Or something like yeah, developing the test script, right? It should also, I think, there, right? Extensively experience in the smoke and the integration. So some of the points are already there, so do not make the duplicate. Okay, and if whatever the you think you can add from this list, you can add it. Okay, so that I will share you today in the class. After this class, I have created one zip file, and I will share with you in that particular zip file all the related document it will contain. Okay, now come to the interview question. What are the interview question they will ask you? Okay,
Because, uh,
yes madam.
no. Yeah, because one small question. Actually, one thing, if interview something is asking what the real time projects have you handled? Okay, can you give the overline? Like, can we tell, for example, you have explained, right? Make my trip to book the tickets like that and all. We saw the JPEG store like that. In the what kind of real time projects we can explain to them that we have handled? The requirement what you gave, we
Currently,
can't
which
explain,
project you
right?
are working? Which project you are
It's my
handling?
banking. It's my banking domain. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
banking only, but that's what I'm confused. How I can incorporate that into my API
Hmm.
and
So,
like
in
that.
which particular domain you are working in the banking? What is it? It is related to?
I'm actually backend tester, mainframe tester. It deals
Okay.
with the bad jobs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That means still
So,
that is what we
can you
have to do the
explain your
payments.
can you explain your project detail, like some brief description?
Yeah,
What are
yeah,
the things you are doing? What are the
yeah. Thing
component you are
is,
passing there?
thing is, to be in short, what we do is we have to enroll the. It's
Give
like
me
a
a second. Let
payment
me know.
method. Yeah.
Okay. So first is it is the payment method, right? Payment
Yes,
method.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay.
It is like automated clearinghouse. Okay, what are all the payment we are doing in real time? That
Okay.
after that, how we do the clearance and send it. That will be a real time. There will be a fraud payments. Those stuffs are
Okay.
there. So that payments will be checked, and then it will be processed for the debit cycle and credit cycle.
Mhm.
So this is, oh, I mean, to be very short, I'm telling.
Okay. So what are the field you are passing there? What are the the what are the field are there, like while doing the
Yeah.
payment, right?
So
What are the
okay.
fields are there?
First, actually, we have one front end API where we'll pass the customer information like name and all the demographic details, and followed by that, we will also pass the type of
So
payment.
whatever the
Okay.
property, let's suppose to make the payment, you know the functionality of the payment method. You know how you can check the fraud
Yes.
and the real payment, right? So
Yes.
when you can't directly do the payment. Before that, you are passing some detail, right?
Yes.
You are passing some detail, like the account detail to, from, and the description and the amount,
Yes.
something like that. You are choosing the option, the which payment method you want to select. There are multiples fields are there, right?
Yes.
Right, so you can consider that field as a key, in the backend. Let's suppose employee. Okay. Mm, okay, let's suppose you can consider that field as a key, like this is you are,
Oh,
well, you are doing the payment, you are doing the passing the user first name, last name, prefix or email ID. After that, you directly can't come to the payment page, right? Clear?
yes. Yes.
Are you
Yes.
coming directly to the payment page, or
No, no,
before
no, no,
that
no.
you are doing some action?
Before that, we are doing this action, Vikash. We will pass these
Right.
kind of details. Yeah.
These kinds of
But
details, like you are saving the person information. For that, if you
yes.
check in the backend, you can say to save the user information. Okay, let me go to this particular.
But we don't have something like the URL and all will not be given because just for a testing purpose, we ourselves we create the
No,
employee
you
information and test it.
interviewer will not, they will only understand your concept. Do you know the application or not, or really you have used your application, REST API or not. Let's suppose I'm taking the application of this particular application, Jetpack Store, right? So where you are trying to book the fees, right? Let's suppose this is your project. This is your project where you are trying to book the fish, dogs, reptile, cats, and the birds, right? So what is the functionality of this particular application? Let's suppose you click on the fish, right? You click on the product ID, you click on the product ID, selected the items, right? You click on the add to cart, right? You click on the proceed to checkout. Then the at proceed to checkout, there will be different option are there. If you go to the make my trip, let me take the make my trip. Okay, so let me go here and Delhi to Mumbai in the date of, let's suppose in the date of 26, okay, and click on search. So how you can let me create one request here, okay. Oh, I have not opened the inspect element. Let me open actually. Uh, Let me again go back. It's too slow. Okay, here you can see. So let's suppose you are working in the Make My Trip project, right? In the in the front end side, and you want to represent this thing as a back end side. You want to represent this thing. You have not worked on the back end, but you want to say that you have worked on the REST API of the Make My Trip, right? So if you're working in the front end side, you know the functionality very well. Agree? Your current project, right? Right, guys?
Yes.
You know your current project functionality very well, right? So let's how we can you can represent your current project as a backend project like a REST API project, right? Let's try to understand. So we have let's suppose in the backend to to get the dashboard page, this particular page, we have the this service URL you are using, right? The first call. Let me create one. Okay, okay, this is another batch. Okay, let me add here one collection folder. Let me add. I'm giving the name make my trip. Okay, and inside that I'm adding the request, right? And here you can see, let's suppose I'm your client, I'm giving you requirement. So to get to open the home page, to open the dashboard page, you have to use this particular URL, right? This particular service. Okay, so using the get method, you have mapped the thing, right? when you call, you will get the response. You get the response. Here you can see, right? And you can save this thing as the home page. Make my trip empty home page, right? So one request is done. One request you have mapped, right? Now you can create the another request, right? In another request, what you are doing here, you are trying to book the flight. Okay, so you pass the Delhi, Mumbai and the 26th date, right? Click on the search. Click on, go to the network section and the search, right? Now if you go, this is the request which they are using, right? To get the request using the query parameter, which we have already discussed, right? So here we can create one request and we can use this base URL. We can use this base URL and you can pass it here, right? And then what query param they are using, you can see it here. Let me copy this copy value, okay? And I will paste it here. Okay, this is your query param, right? So in that there are a lot of things. Let me customize this thing up to here. I have customized it, right? So this is your get call to get get request where you are trying to search using the query param. Itinerary is one key. Delhi to Mumbai you have passed and the date, right? So this is your, if you call, you will get the response. Here you can see, you will get that response in the form of XML, right? Here you can see, right? So you can give the name as something like rename, uh, get the flight detail using the query param. Okay, now this is your second request, right? Now when you get the detail, now what you have to do, you have to book the ticket, right? Book now. Let me clear. And for the book now, it is the separate action. Give me a second. Here you can see. So when you click on book now, let me inspect. Okay, and then here this is the page where you can book the thing, right? And here you can enter the detail like your name. Let me add the name Vikas, okay, and Sa, right? And the mail, and then you can pass the mobile number, right? You have passed the mobile number and your email ID, right? Something like you can pass it here, right? You have passed it here. Now I continue, right? If I continue, please select. Okay, it giving me the error message. I have to select the username and the password. If you go and check,
Vikash, I'm sorry. Actually, the concepts are concepts I'm fine, or you again explain the concepts of the application? I mean, I
Sorry.
just was no, concept is I'm fine. So I think you're again explaining the concepts of this thing, right? Of API.
Yeah, so you know your application very well. Whatever the banking application you are using, you know your application. So you can
Yes.
represent that thing in the backend side. Like you have for every action, you can decide one module. You can decide one request. To click on the home page, we have the separate request. We have the get request. We have applied the query parameter to fetch the detail using the query param, using the id, right? And then you can also take it as a you are using any application, so you have the register or the sign up feature, right? So you can create, you can represent that thing. You have the sign up request where you are passing the person detail like first name, email id, and what are the basic detail you are passing, right? So we have the three requests. Get the data, whatever the application you are using, to get the data of that particular application, we are using the get call to get any particular resource detail. And using the query parameter, you can get all the detail of the that particular resource. Let's suppose flight resource or hotel resource, right? And we have the register uh, uh, request also, where we are passing the first name, last name, where we are registering, right? After then, to book the ticket, we have the separate request in the book the ticket, where we are passing the passenger detail, where we are passing the passenger detail, and where we are trying to connect with the server, right? It will give you that response. After booking the ticket, it comes to the order page, confirm the order page, right? So where you have to pass some of the detail, what are the detail, to review the things, right? So for that we have the separate request. For at the end you have the payment request. So at the payment you have to pass a couple of the things, and then you can connect with the server, and then you will get the response like you have successfully done with the payment. And then you can use the get method, get call, to check the status of the payment. Clear, madam? So you
Ah,
can
yes, Vikash. I
represent this
was
thing.
actually okay with this websites. I was actually okay. These concepts are completely fine. Make my trip. I was just asking, like, we can't represent this Make My Trip or JPEG store, right? So I was just
Yeah.
asking from your end, is there some real time website? Can you just give me the overall? I mean, not exact website. You can't give me
So
the
you
overall
can
thing.
take it
What do you
your
do like that?
project example. You can take it
Okay.
your project example. No problem. If you want to represent that thing, so I have one the dummy one. If you go, this one is the one banking example, Tara Bank.
Okay. Maybe so that we will just modify that and tell. That is why I was looking for
Yeah,
something.
you can
Oh, okay,
modify
nice.
your project and you can represent. They will not verify on which project you are working, but the things, whatever the things you will explain, it will be very clear and the confidently. That is the main matter. You can, even you have worked on that project or not, doesn't matter. If you know the functionality of the any of the project, any of the project, or your earlier organization, any of the organization project, you know the functionality, you know the behavior, convert that thing in the back end and represent. Convert that thing. Let's suppose I have not used the make my trip, but I can say in the make my trip, they I work on the REST API, web service of the make my trip, right? For different module, if I, let's suppose if I represent this make my trip as a backend project, then how I can represent, even I have not worked on that, right? So you can represent that I have worked on the make my trip REST API project, where they have the multiple modules are there, like flight, hotels, villas, apartment, and the train. Each module have the different feature. Like to book the flight, we have one request where we can pass the detail like a trip type, from, to, department, return, and where we are trying to search using the get call, using the get method, right? Where we are using the query param section. where we are using the param, where we are passing the Delhi, Mumbai and this departure, and where it will filter out all the detail. Similarly, we use the get concept using the query param for the hotels as well, right? So after getting the detail, now to book the detail, to enter the passenger detail, we have the separate request for that. In that particular request, we are passing the passenger detail, how many passengers are there, the passenger first name, last name, and the child, and the email ID, the phone number, the GST. So some of the things we on the passenger page are the mandatory, like first name, last name. So first thing, you have successfully proceed to the next step. After then, you missed like the first name, you are getting the error message. You miss the mobile number, you are getting the error message, right? So after adding the passenger detail, you moving to the payment page. So at the payment page, we have the different option are there, right? We have the different enum type, which method type you want to select, right? Like the UPI, or any particular bank, or you want to pay using the credit card. So you have to know the functionality. You can represent this thing like that. Clear?
Yes, Vikash, it is fine.
If I take any banking application, let's suppose if I'm taking the one banking application, let's suppose, okay, I am taking the ICCI banking application example, right? I have not worked on the ICCI bank. The ICCI bank project Infosys is handling, right? And I have not worked in the Infosys, right? So I don't know about the Infosys, but I know the banking, how the the banking project is working actually. Okay, so you can represent like that, you have worked on the one banking project, right? One banking project where they are creating the account of the customer. So to create the account, we have the the employee request are there. In the employee request, we are passing the employee detail, right? After passing the employee detail, like first name, last name, whatever the detail, we using the call, using the request, we are creating the we are connecting with the server, we are creating the account, right? After that, if that person want apply for the pension, or apply they want to take the loan, so we have the loan module also, pension module also, mortgage module also. To apply the loan, to apply the loan, they have to pass the following detail, like the income, and if you have any mortgage, and you any other source of income, what are the detail the banking will take to for the loan, right? So you can pass that thing as a key, like your current company, they will take your current income, your any previous loan is there, right? So you can represent that thing like that. Clear? It's very simple. If you know
Yes,
the
Vikash.
module, if you know your project, whatever the component you are going to use, represent that component as a key,
That's the key, right? Okay. Okay.
as a key, as a key.
Yes,
Let's
Vikash, I'm
suppose in
fine.
the
I'm fine.
loan section, we are taking like your income, your previous company, your current company, and any loan you are taking current now. So you can represent that thing as a key, as a key, as a key here, as a key. And inside that, user will tell you what if the current income is 50,000 per month, and any loan is going on, yes or no, boolean, or the boolean value, right? Or what is your current company name, you can give like whatever the company name, how many the previous company name, and how many years of the experience, like that, whatever the the client will decide, whatever the things you have to get from the customer to for the loan perspective, right? So you have to consider that thing as a key, and in the value, it's up to you what value you have to pass, right? Clear? Clear, madam?
Yes, Vikash, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay.
This explains good. Yeah.
So I'm not asking, you can take any project which you feel confident, okay, and you can represent like that. You have the 3 years of experience in that particular REST API project, okay. So let's discuss about the interview question. What are the interview question they will ask, right? So what is the web service? We have already discussed, like web service is the method of the communication, right? Which is establishing the the connection to exchange the data, which we have already discussed in the very first class. What is the web service? Okay, so go through the document and you can try to understand. So I will not explain you the things which I have already explained. Is that clear? If anything is new, that I will explain you. Clear? Are you okay with that, guys?
Yes.
Right. So what are the different types of the web service? SOAP and the REST. What is the SOAP service? SOAP is the simple object access protocol. It is the XML based protocol for accessing the web service, and SOAP is W3C recommendation for communication between the two applications. And it is, again, it is the XML based and it is language independent. Both SOAP and REST, the both purpose is same. Both purpose is same, to make the communication between the two applications. So let's suppose uh, I am purchasing the Maruti car, and you are purchasing the Mercedes car, right? So both the car is used to travel, right? Both the car motto is used to travel, right? You can go one place to another place, right? But the feature is different. The in the Mercedes there are the format is different, the body is different, right? They looks different, mileage is different, right? But in the case of Maruti, that is totally different, right? But motto is same, to make the communication, right? So same here, the SOAP is the XML based application, okay. Here you can see what is the RESTful web service. RESTful represent the representational state transfer, and in the RESTful we have the set of principle, right, which the developer has to follow, right, to design a web service to exchange the data between the application, okay. Now what is the advantage of the RESTful web service? If you working in the RESTful web service, then they will ask you, if you work on 3 years on that particular web service project, then what did you realize, why it is beneficiary, what are the advantages if you use the RESTful project, right? So in the RESTful, it is as compared to the SOAP project, it is fast, because there is no restrict specification like SOAP. In the SOAP, we have to follow the format, the envelope at the top, the header and the body and the optional side, and then you have to close all the tagging, right? Which we have to follow in the SOAP service, right? So there is no restriction like that, right? It is the, if you are using the SOAP web service, sorry, REST web service, so it consume less bandwidth and the resource. So which I have already explained you, you can easily read the RESTful web service, the JSON format. It's simple key and the value, so it required the less bandwidth of the employee and the resource, right? It will not more take time to implement actually, and easy to test actually. So The REST service is fast and it consumes the less bandwidth and the resource. And the second point, it is language independent. You can use the REST service in, you can implement this REST web service in any of the language like Java, PHP, .NET, Angular, right? Now, if you are using the REST web service, it will support JSON as well, XML as well, text as well, HTML as well. But in the case of SOAP web service, it support only XML based protocol. But in the case of RESTful, it supports the multiple. Okay, the maximum chance 95% you will get the JSON, right? But it support the other format also. Okay, this is the difference between the SOAP and the REST. SOAP is an protocol, it is an architect style, okay, which we have already discussed. SOAP means simple object access protocol, and the REST means representational state transfer. SOAP can't use a REST because it is a protocol, right? In the REST can use the SOAP service because it is a concept. It can use the protocol like HTTP and the SOAP, right? In the SOAP, you can see it is XML based. In the REST, we can use the different format. In SOAP, whatever the standard defined by the W3C, we have to follow strictly. But in the case of REST, we don't have to too much follow the standard. Right? Now, what is the API testing? What is the API? Okay, so we will discuss this thing later on. This concept, what is the API, we will discuss later on. Okay, now you are the IT employee, you always have to update according to market. So if sometime they will ask you what are the tools are available in the market. Okay, so here you can see these all are the famous tool which is available in the market. The first one is the Postman. If you are using the Postman, you have to use the, you can do the automation testing using the JavaScript. The scripting language is the Java. The second famous tool which is frequently used in the industry, that is the REST assured. The REST assured. If you are using the REST assured, then you have to use the Selenium concept. Okay, and you can use like C#, also Java, also any of the project, right? And the third one is the very famous tool is the SOAP UI. If you are using the SOAP UI, then to do the automation testing, you have to use the Groovy script. If you are using the APG, you can also use the APG to do the API testing. The Catalan is one of the tool which is not frequently used in the market. This tool, the Catalan, Assertival, Transcend, Karate, this is not rarely it is used, but not in 10 customer one will used, or even or 10 will not used, right? So very less people. If the Postman, if 10 company, then 8 company will use the Postman, right? And also if there is 10 company, then 6 company will use the REST assured, like the ratio we have in the market. Okay, so we have to also aware about what are the tools available in the market, right? Now explain the architectural style of the creating the web application. This is something like they will come into the development side. Okay, what are the architectural style the developer has to follow? You don't have to explain, know this thing in detail, right? But because you are working from long time, 3 years, right? So you have to say something about that, right? So you can say like we are using the HTTP protocol for the client server communication, and we are using the XML and the JSON formatting language. right? It is simple URI as the address for the services, and it is stateless communication. So did you know the stateless communication? What is the stateless communication? So stateless communication means, let's suppose we are using Make My Trip or any application, right? We need the UI here. To do the automation testing, we have to open the browser, any of the browser, i.e. Chrome, right? Whatever the browser you have to open, right? And then you have to hit the URL, and then you have to do the functional and the automation testing. That is, that require one GUI, and that require the browser to do the testing. But if any testing where you don't require the browser, where you don't require the GUI, right? That is known as a stateless or headless. That is known as a stateless communication, right? What are the HTTP methods supported by the REST? We have already discussed this thing: post, get, put, patch, and delete, right? What is the difference between put, post, and patch? So we already know this thing. Using the post, you can create the thing, you can update the thing. So this updating feature, every company not implement, right? It depends on the requirement. But basically, if you talk about the post method is used to create the data. If you, most of the person, they know this thing, that post method is only used to create the data, because in one of my project, they have implemented the update feature as well. That's why I know this thing. Using the post method, you can also update the data used based on the ID, right? So that is the one thing you can say, right? Using the put, you can update and replace the existing data. Using the patch, you can update the existing data, right? So they will ask you the difference between post and patch. So I think you can easily represent that thing. So if they're asking how you can represent, like using the patch, you can update the existing entity, right? How, let's suppose we have the multiple property, right? If you use, like, you want to update the date of birth, so either you can pass all the property, either you can pass the single property, that particular property will get updated. But in the case of put, if you are passing the single property, let's suppose date of birth, what happens? It will replace your existing data with the new property, right? So like that, you can represent the thing. Okay. What is the resource? Which I have already explained you what is the resource, right? Like what user want, what is the user, what user need, like the text file, the HTML, the image, video they want to click, they want to book the flight, that all are the resource, right? Which protocol is used by the RESTful web service? They will ask you what protocol. So protocol means HTTP or HTTPS. If they ask you what is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS, the S means the secure protocol you are using. If you not use the S, that is the unsecure protocol. So then they will ask you, have you worked on the HTTP protocol? So you can say, no, I have not worked, right? Because if you are working in the real time, every company, they will use the secure protocol. They will cross check the thing, that have you worked on the HTTP or not. So you can say, no, I have not get a chance to work on that particular protocol. I have worked on the HTTPS, that is the secure protocol, but I know what is the difference. You can represent like that. If you say, they ask you, if have you worked on the HTTP protocol, then you can't directly say as a yes. Sometimes you have to use your, you have to represent the clever, right? So you can say like that, you have not used the HTTP you have, because in my project that is the secure protocol, and they are using the HTTPS concept, the protocol concept, and why this protocol is used to make the communication between client and the server. Okay. Now, what are the verb and the component we have used in the HTTP request? So we have discussed, like verb means method, like post, put, patch, and delete. URI, uniform resource identifier, HTTP version, like HTTP version, like HTTP v1, v2. If you go somewhere, some of the company, they are using the HTTP version here. Some of the company, they also launch the HTTP version actually. Okay, so request header, which we are using here, request header, this one, right? In the request header, we are passing the content type, accept the authorization, right? In the header, request header, right? Here you can see, right? And the request body, what is the request body? Request body, where we are passing the thing. So these all are the things which comes under the HTTP request, guys. In the request side means that is from the client side. The client side is verb. Verb means method, this one, verb, this one, and the URL, this one, and the request body, and request header, and the request body. If they ask you what are the component in the HTTP response, that is server side, then you can ask like that. You can give the answer like that: the response, HTTP response, right? And the response header, which you will get it here, right? And you can see the HTTP version you will also get, and the status code you are also getting, right? So these four components are the main component in the HTTP response. Clear? Now they will explain, they will give you one URL, and they will ask you, can you split this thing and tell me what are the things are there, right? I think you will easily give the answer. What is the JSON, which I have already explained you? JSON is the simple object access protocol, and it is easy to read and validate the request and the response, right? These all are the JSON types, right? What is the status code? So you first you can ask it. There are generally three types of the status code, like 200, 400, and the client error, right? In this success, we have the three: 200, 201, and 204. In the client error, we have these types of code. So the things which you will get majorly, like 400, 401, 403, 404, and 409, you can say that thing only you have faced. So in how they will ask you regarding the status code, like that, they will directly not ask you what are the status code, right? They will ask you, in while doing your testing, what are the status code you have faced, right? So you can say like that. If you talk about the success code, then I have get this 200, and you have the region in which case you will get it as per the requirement. So you can explain this thing very neat and clean way, please, right? And you all, and if the second is the client error, I have get it, that is the 400. In the client error, you have get it 400 bad request. If the things are syntax error, or if it is not anything as per the requirement, then I have get it the 400 frequently. And the 401, if you are passing the wrong token and the blank token and some other user token, in that case I'm getting the 401. 403, the forbidden, when you get the forbidden. So when I'm trying to access the some user data, let's suppose your token is correct, but you are trying to log in the account using the some user login ID and the password. So in that case, you will get the 403 forbidden. 404 not found. Anything which you are trying to serve that is not exist in your database, right? So in that case, you will get the 404, right? So this thing you can represent, you will get mostly the client error, right? And you can also say, if they ask you any other mode, then you can also ask, yeah, sometime I have also get the 405 method not allowed. The method not allowed means some, as per the requirement, let's suppose to create the data, we have to use the post method, right? But you are using apart from that some other method like put, patch or get or option. So in that case, we are getting the method not allowed, right? And the 409 we have, if anything is already exist and you are trying to create with the same thing, right? So you can say this thing is every company is not implementing the 405, 401, 4014, right? Everyone is not implementing this thing. So you can explain this ever for. If they will ask you any other, then you can say that I have sometime, rarely, sometime I have also get it 405. You can't say frequently, you can't say frequently, then they will think that you are not mapping your requirement correctly, that's why you are getting frequently. Okay, so this thing you can, the other thing you can say that sometime I have also get the 405 or 415 and 409. You can explain the the theoretical concept of that. Okay, now you can see, say like you I have also faced the server error when the server in the maintenance I'm getting the 500 or 503 service unavailable, right? Or when due to the network issue or it's taking some time, right? I'm also getting the 502 bad gateway or 504. You can explain like that. So they will easily judge you that this is the real candidate. You are the real candidate. Okay, so this is the one interview question. Okay, now what is the difference between, this is the very important question they will ask you in the interview. The 19th question is, what is the difference between authentication and the authorization, which I have already explained you in detail, right? Which you can easily represent, and you can take the different example, the real time example. Now the another thing, the next question is, what is the HTTP header, right? So HTTP header is nothing but a key value pair. Key value pair. When you are connecting with the server, we have to ask to the server what kind of request we are sending to you. What kind of request we are sending to you. So what kind of request? It is application JSON or XML. You can see the content type you can pass like application JSON, XML, and the accept we are passing as a key, and the value, the authorization we are passing. So this is known as the HTTP header. Okay, now what did you mean by the content type header? The content type which we are using, it's simple. It is used to tell the server in which format data is sending, the request is sending to the server. That indicate, if you are using application JSON, that means you are sending the request as a application JSON, so that server will easily understand. Okay, what did you mean by the accept? If you are using the accept header, what did you mean? So this tells the web service what kind of response client is, the client is accepting, the response client is accepting, right? So the web service is capable of sending the response in XML or JSON, right? So accept header, as same thing, the which we have discussed in the content type. We have to ask to the server, and the response we are sending the JSON or HTML or XML or the test or the JSON. So if you are communicating with you, if I ask you, I will talk in English, then it is easy for you that you will set your mind, right? Similarly, before connecting with the server, right, I have to ask to the server, right, so in which format we are going to communicate, we are sending the data, right? Now the what is the JSON object? So they will ask you, you work on the REST project, So you use the JSON object. What did you mean by the JSON object? So JSON object is surrounded by the curly bracket. It is simple key and the value pair, right? The key must be string and the value key the key is always in the string, right? This key, and this value can be in any data type like string, number, object, boolean, null. Key and the values are the separated by the colon. Each key value pair is separated by the comma, which we have already discussed, right? And if you want to access any of the property using the dot notation, you can access, which we have already seen, right? This thing we have already discussed, right? What is the difference between XML and the JSON format, right? So JSON is less verbose. Less verbose means you using only essential word. That means it is very light word, very lightweight. It is easy to use actually, easy to write. If you are using the XML, you can see anyone can understand what I am trying to write it here, right? So that is the one difference. It is easy to read and write, locate value. Its structure is also very easy. But in the case of XML, the developer has to use the metadata within the tag, and they can handle mixed content better than the JSON. So if you are using the XML, so let me use one XML, the calculator Visual XML. Here you can see this is the XML. So they have to follow some, the architect, which according to W3C, they have to follow in this format. They have to use the closing tag and the value and the again the URL, right? So they have to follow some format. Here you have to pass the soap envelope, then the header. You can see the open tag, then it's closing the tag here. So they have used the tagging concept. If you miss the tagging, you will not connect with the server. Okay, and it is not easy to read actually, and it is not easy to write. Right? If you don't have the proper knowledge of the XML, then you can't easily write and read here. Right? Now the one important the question: what is the difference between URI and the URL? URI and the URL. Sometimes we are asking URL, right? And the what is it is different from the URI, or it is same, right? Let's try to understand what is the difference between URI and the URL. So URI means Uniform Resource Identifier. Uniform Resource Identifier. It is a string of character which is used to identify a resource on the internet, either by location or by name, or by name or both. You can see if I'm clicking on the make my trip, the resource is the flight is one URI. We are identify this thing using the name. If I clicking on the hotel, so this hotel, this particular thing is known as a URI, Uniform Resource Identifier. Uniform Resource Identifier. Okay, and URL means Uniform Resource Location. Uniform Resource Location. So here you can see, let's suppose here you can see http://google.com. So this is the URL actually. This is the URL, and in this URL, let's suppose this is the URL, right? This is the make my trip URL. Inside this URL, if you are clicking on the flight, right? So we are taking the help of URI, Uniform Resource Identifier, which identify the flight. If I going to the hotel, so it identify the hotel, right? So this is the URI, Uniform Resource Identifier. And if you are clicking on the any of the module, the resource which identify the anything, that is known as a URI, right?
So basically,
And
resource
URL
is an URI.
Yeah, you can say like that. URI, you can say it is an resource which identify the particular location. If you go to the flight, you have to click on the flight. So that is the URI. This is the flight URI. Okay, here you can see if I clicking on the any person name or any location, that is known as a URI actually. So URL is basically it is the set of protocol, domain, path, query, string, right? Here you can see this is the URL, right? So here you can see it is the combination of protocol, the HTTP, the host URL, and the resource. If I use the query parameter, then it is the combination of query parameter as well, right? So URI, it is clear. Now, what is the difference between web service and the versus web API? Web service and the API, which I think already explained you in the class. Let me again explain you. Okay, I will take guys another 10 minutes, so do not leave the class. So yeah, the API and this is the very important question which the interview will ask you. What is the difference between the web service and the API? You know the web service, right? The web service means it is the medium. Using that medium, you can communicate and you can exchange the data between the two applications. That is the web service, right? Web service, right? So if you talk about the API is also doing the same thing, the making the communication between the two application or the device. Let's suppose uh, we have the laptop, right, and we are using the mouse keyboard, right? So how the mouse and keyboard is connecting with each other, and they are working. So they are using the component object model API, right? Component object model API, that is the computer operating system, right? So one device, one electronics device also if they are making the communication, establishing the communication between the another device, then it is also a API. It is making the communication, right? Same as it is in the database system. One database is connected to the other, or it is connected to these services. That is the API. The computer hardware means your CPU, your monitor, your OS is installed in your laptop or in your computer. So the OS is communicating with your machine. That is the API, right? The software library, if you are using in the, if you are working in the automation testing, we need the if you are working on the Selenium, you need the jar file to use the Selenium interface, right? If you are using in the Java, you need the Java file. If you are any software library, you have to use. That is the API that provide you the interface, right? So here you can see if the web application is there. If any application communicating with each other and using the protocol as a HTTP and HTTPS, that is also an API. But in the case of web service, it's making the communication, but only using the protocol as a HTTP and HTTPS. That's it. So you can say like that the web service is an API. Can I say? Right?
Yes.
Right? Because in web service we are using this web-based application, that is HTTP and HTTPS protocol, right? So that comes under the API. But if you talk about is all API is web service, no, because computer hardware system we are not using the protocol as HTTP. In database we are not using the as a HTTP protocol. In software library we are not using the HTTP protocol. So how I can say it is web service? If it is web service, then it is only using the protocol as the HTTPS or HTTP. So that is the difference between the web application, sorry, as web service and the API. Okay, you can see it here, the diagram. This is the web service. Using the internet you can connect, but in the case of API, using the mobile, the computer, and the message, it connecting with the server, making the communication. Right now, let's come to the HTTP protocol. What did you mean by the protocol? Which I'm multiple times I have explained you. HTTP means hypertext transfer protocol. It's transferring the information over the internet. So we are using the HTTP. So we are, transferring the information over the internet, right? So that is the HTTP protocol. And in that protocol, we are, the client and server is transmitting the data. The client is sending the data and server is, client is sending the request and server is returning the response, right? That is the using the HTTP protocol we can achieve here, right? So here you can see we are sending the request, right? We are hitting anything in the web browser and using the HTTP request is connecting with the server using the internet. Here you can see the client and the server and using the internet at the HTTP protocol. Right now, what did you mean by the proxy server? What did you mean by the proxy, the server? So sometimes they will ask you the proxy server. Okay, so let's try to understand the proxy server. So in the case of protocol, here you can see in this diagram, we don't have any proxy here. We are not using any proxy. When you are hitting any URL in the browser, when you are, guys, after this class, please watch the recording session again and again to make the more clarification. Okay, so here there are still 5 minutes I will take actually. So here you can see if I'm hitting any URL in the browser, there is not any mid layer. It directly connect with the web server and giving you the response. So what is the mean of the proxy here? Let's introduce the proxy. What happens when you are hitting any application and when we are searching anything into the browser, it's connected with the proxy server. Going through the proxy server. So when I hitting any, when I'm searching anything into the browser, it's connect with the proxy server, and that proxy server will pass that request to the HTTP server. Then HTTP server take that request and pass to the HTTP proxy. Then HTTP proxy pass that response to the client. So you can see it here, the same thing, only they have added one layer. Right? That layer is known as a proxy here. So the same functionality, retrieving the data on the internet on the behalf of user. Here, what the things are here? Here, the client is directly connecting with the server, right? But in the case of proxy, the proxy will in the behalf of user, the proxy will connect with the server and they will get the response in the behalf of user. So like the broker, right? If I'm dealing any something, we are going to the broker, and on behalf of me, the broker is dealing to the third party. right? The same thing the proxy is doing here, retrieving the data on the internet on behalf of a user. Server hit server, the proxy server sits between a web server and the web client. Here you can see it sits between this the HTTP client and this server, right? And they will, what is the benefit of that? Let's try to understand, right? So when the I hit anything, it go, the HTTP request go to the HTTP proxy, then it will check that thing, it is harmful or what, or it is some, you know, unwanted thing. If it is the proxy server, you know, clarify that thing, then it connect with the server, then server will return the response to the proxy, then proxy will return to the HTTP server. So what is the you know, why I have implemented the HTTP proxy here? Because if anything is unwanted, like you know, any unwanted things are there, you know, every time the which hacker is doing, right? If you go through the proxy server will, you know, correct that thing, they will find the harmful thing, right? They will filter out the things actually, and then connect with the web server, the HTTP server. So there is, this is the one advantage, right? The another advantage is that the, you know, if they directly connect with the server, then they can, you know the IP address of the server. They can easily know the IP address of the server. If they are going through the HTTP proxy, then what happened? This HTTP proxy will generate one IP, one on IP, then connect with the server. So the client will don't know the IP address of this HTTP server, right? Because the IP address is very important. If any hacker will know the IP address of any server, they can, you know, do anything. So that's why we have implemented the HTTP proxy layer here, right? And the second point is, here you can, the proxy allow you the privacy. The privacy, I have added one point, allow you to serve the internet anonymously. Here you can see, you don't know what IP the server is using here. HTTP proxy can be used to restrict the access to a specified internet resource, to bypass the thing actually. Okay. And the second point is the speed. What did you mean by the speed? What happened? Let's suppose I search the I search API testing tool, here, right, in the browser. So it giving me the response, right? So first time it will go through the proxy. It will go through the proxy when you do first time. It will go through the proxy and connect with the server, right, and get the response. When the same thing you will try to do, what happened? The proxy will store this thing in the proxy server, in the proxy database. So when you second time, when you search the same thing, so it will first identify that thing in the proxy database. If that thing is already there, so it will return the response to you. It will not connect with the server. So there is save of time. So that's why it's, I have written here speed. It increases your speed, right? And the another thing is, what is the web service and the web server and the web service? The another point is, what is the web service and the web server? Let's try to understand this concept. Web server and web service. Okay. Web service is a program actually. Sorry, web server. Web server is a program which accepts the HTTP request and respond by giving the HTTP response. Same concept here. Little bit, you know, differences are there, right? So let's try to understand that thing. Okay. Web server is a program which accepts the protocol as a HTTP, right? Web server it's refer to delivering the web page content of a user, right? So web server, it's refer where your web page is located. Let's suppose we are using the Make My Trip or icci.com. So it is located inside the web server. It is located inside the web server. A web server is a piece of software, right? Software designed to serve the web page, website, and web service. So web server, you can understand like it is a machine or software where we have designed the web pages, website, and the web services, right? So you can refer, it is also hardware running, the hardware, right? If you talk about the web service, so we are using the web service, that is the REST web service, SOAP web service, that is the web service which is hosted inside the web server, which is kept it inside the web server. A web server is running inside a web server. So inside the web server, we are storing the web page, website, and web services inside the web server. It is just like a container where we are storing the web pages, website, and the web services. And this web service which we are using to make the communication and using the REST and the SOAP. So this web service comes under the web server. Clear? Now, the another thing is, what is the web application and the web service? Web application and web service. Web application means if you are any application which is directly accessing through the internet, through the browser, through any website, that is known as a web application. Let's suppose I'm using the Make My Trip or ICCI. I'm using the browser. I'm using any website here. I'm using the GUI here. That is known as a web application. That is known as a web application. And in the case of web application, we don't require the browser. We don't need any website, right? So that is known as a web service. Web service is the system of software to allow different machines to interact with each other through a network. Only we need a network. We don't need the the website like that. We don't need the GUI or the browser to connect with the server. If we are using the browser and the website and GUI, then it is a web application. If it is web service, then we don't require this thing. We only require the network. Only require the network. So this is all about that. The web service, we have multiple web services here, you can see. Right now, the Postman collection, you know very well what is the Postman collection. We can store the groups and collection, environment, all the things, right? What is the environment? You know that thing. What is the PM object? I have added the thing. What do you mean by the PM object, right? And what is the variable? What are the variable scope? Global, collection, environment, and the data. How to parse the thing? You can see, we can parse the request. You can see, you have to use, if you are parsing the request, if you are parsing the response, you have to use this one, right? So that's it all about the interview question, guys, which they will ask you frequently in the interview, right? And the few of the things they will also add you, which I have not added. How you can create the variable in JavaScript, right? It is same like the Java or C#. So you can represent that thing. right? And what are the the data type we are using in the JavaScript, what are the variable we have. So that thing you have to represent as an interview question, which I have already explained you in JavaScript part. So that's it, guys. It is useful for you or not, the things which I have explained you in today's class,
Yes, Vikas.
guys.
Yes, because the total class was very good, very informative. We explained everything in very neat way.
Okay, so you can and I believe I also missed the some of the interview question, right? Because you don't know the minds of the interviewer, but the things are they will ask the question in between this actually in different way, right? So if your concept is clear, you can easily give the answer, right? So go through the interview question and prepare your resume, and you can start giving the interview. And one more thing, guys. Uh, it is like the personal thing which I'm sharing with you. So I'm actually this teaching experience I have started uh, before the corona, right? uh, and I have till now trained almost 500 students, right? So now I am planning to implement this thing as at ground level, right? Till now it was like something was it was the hobby only, right? Now I want to implement this thing at ground level as a professional way, right? So I'm trying to open one institute and organization, the online institute and the organization. I will give one name, the very good name. And if you feel good, like if you like this class and whatever the things I have provided you, whatever the taken the class, you can also refer to the other person, you can discuss. If anyone is interested, then please refer to them, right? Please ask me, and in the next batch whenever I will start, and that particular person, they can attend my class. And one more thing, sometime we are discussing with the client and with the in between the friend, that your friend or your client, they implement one application, and they don't have the testing team, right? They want to do the performance testing, they want to do the whatever the times, whatever the testing they want to do, either functional, non-functional, the any language, Java, C sharp, any framework, right? So I have also started where I can get the project from the third party. And if you coming with the project, like anywhere, like the small company project, or any person you have connected with you, that they have the application but they don't have the tester, right? And they have connected with you and they want to do the testing, right? So you can come with that project, you will get your commission, right? Because you will act like a consultant, right? And you can come with me, and we can collaborate each other, and we can work each other, we can complete the testing in time, and we can give it to the client as well. Okay, so this type of work I'm going to start actually, including with the online training. I will also get the testing project, whatever the testing we have, except the security testing. Okay, except the security testing. If you are coming with the project, or if you any of your friend, right, they are discussing with you, so you can recommend my name. Okay, because now I'm get bored to work in an organization, so I'm planning to give it some proper platform actually. Okay.
Yes, Vikas. So
Yeah, so if
one
you have anything, then you can collaborate with me, or if you are very much good in anything, then you can also discuss with me, we can work together. Okay.
yes, because one question I'm having, like
Yeah.
Like, could you tell just some briefing about this session ID and cookies in Postman? Like it was.
Okay, session ID and the cookies. Okay. So let's suppose, let me close the browser and open the new browser here. Open the new browser here, and let's suppose I'm opening one application. Let's suppose Jetpack Store. Okay. Jetpack Store here. I'm going to open Jetpack Store, this particular application. So I'm Vikas Kumar Shah. I have opened my browser, and I'm clicking on the application, right? I click on the application, I enter the store, right? So what happened when I open this application? What happened? The browser, any browser will assign the session cookie, the session ID to this particular user, Let's suppose I click on the fish, right? So you can see it here, the session ID is get assigned by the browser here. So this session ID will get assigned for this particular action, for this particular user. So whenever I will click on the docs reptile, this session ID will get assigned, the same session ID will get assigned with all the action, whatever the action I will do it here. All the action, whatever the action, so that the browser will understand it is the same person. It is the same person which is doing the action, if the session ID is get changed, the session ID it get changed, that means the person is also get changed, right? So let's suppose this is your session ID, right? So let me paste it somewhere. You pasted somewhere, right? This is your session ID for the person one, right? So let's suppose you close the browser, and the second person, let's suppose Rahul come, and he opened the new browser, and he again using, he doing the same thing, Jetpack Store. He opened in a application, right? So this browser will check, right? Is this same session ID or it is the different browser? So what happened when you close the browser? When you close the browser, the session ID will get expired. When you close the browser, the session ID will get expired for that particular person. When the new person will come, right? So again, the browser will assign the new session ID for that particular person. Okay. So here, if I click on, here you can see, if I copy this session ID, and paste it here, you can see this person session ID is different. So whenever, let's suppose I clicking on the fish, so this session ID, it's internally aligned to further action. If I clicking on the fish, that session ID is internally aligned and proceeding the thing, that it is the same person who is doing the action. So I think, have you seen this feature in the Facebook? Like when you open the facebook.com, the session ID get stored. In the browser when you are clicking on the message, or you are clicking on the my account, that session ID is proceeding further, right? So that is the session ID. And the session cookies, if you go and search it, session ID in the session ID, Session ID. Okay. Here you can see. You will get the information. A session ID is the unique number. It is a unique number. Every time the browser will generate the unique number to you, right? Unique number that data website server assigned to identify a specific user for the duration of that user to visit. The session ID can be stored as a cookie. It is stored as a cookie, that is uniform resource locator. So you can see this explain the session ID, guys, and it is stored that thing into the browser, that is known as a cookie. Anything you have perform in the browser, right, that the browser is storing that thing, that is known as a cookie. Here you can see. So I have searched the session ID. If you have any confusion, so here is the Stack Overflow, and if you go through and check, they have added the same person having the question. You can go and read this thing.
Yes, sir.
Right?
So Kash,
Clear?
like how we will use this in Postman, like any short way you could tell. So, like
Here in the header section, you have to pass the simple
session ID.
session ID. Session ID. And you have to pass the value, because in the REST API, in the SOAP API, we are not using the session ID because we are not interacting with the browser. But in the performance testing, it required in the JMeter.
Okay.
Right? Clear?
Okay. Yes, sir. And
Because
cookies
in
are
the in the REST API, we are not using the we are only using the network. We are not using any the website or any browser. So where the session ID will come? Correct? Agree?
yes.
Right? So that's it, guys. Please do practice, and if you have any query, then let me know. Okay. And if you like the class, then in coming days, I'm going to create an organization name. So please add some comment there, whatever you feel, right? And also recommend, to all in your friend circle and about the testing classes. Okay.
Sure,
So
because
yeah, thank you, guys. It was the nice batch, and thank you, guys. Please watch the recording session. Thank you.
thank you, because
Sure, Vikash. Thank you so much.
And
That was a good,
feel
really good.
free to, yeah, thank you, madam. So feel free to connect with me anytime. Okay. So whenever I get the time, I will definitely respond to you. Okay. So it is not like that the class is over, you can't connect with me. You can connect with me. Okay. I am
because
giving a lot of privilege to you guys. Okay.
yeah, for
Yeah,
any
sir.
query,
Tell me.
like we can message you on Skype, like for any query.
Yeah, yeah, you can. You can.
Thank
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye, guys.
Thank you.